Viewers, it's a beautiful Thursday morning, and of course it's another wonderful edition of Good Morning Nigeria, brought to you by HINS TV. Of course, you know we're here to do what we do best, and that's to bring to you trending news about current happenings in our beloved country Nigeria. And we have two very interesting topics for you today. Now, the first on the list is the Federal High Court proscribes IPOB and declares it a terrorist organization. The Federal High Court in Abuja has banned the indigenous people of Biafra and declared the group a terrorist organization in the country. What do you think about that? Okay, now the second topic we have for you today is the South is that the Northern governors have said that the Southeast politicians are only interested in pocketing national resources instead of developing their regions. Now recall that the Northern governors are on a peace mission in the Southeast and South-South region, and they said while on the peace mission that the Southeast politicians are only interested in amassing wealth for themselves to the detriment of the people of the Southeastern region. What do you think about that? We'll be looking at these two very wonderful topics today, and of course you're welcome to drop your comments at our Facebook page at Happenings in Nigeria, and our phone lines are open for you to give us a call. Tell us what you think about what we are discussing today. And of course, you know my name is Tochi Adele, and I have two very wonderful gentlemen with me in the studio. We'll be looking at this topic together. So please, we'll be going on a very short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Business title: a young entrepreneur or a small business owner. Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234ads.com or call 090 9162 1850. Are you a business title, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234ads.com or call 090 9162 1850. Are you a business title, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234ads.com or call 090 9162 1850. Are you a business title, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234ads.com or call 090 9162 1850. 3,000 Nigerians. Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234arts.com or call 090-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234arts.com or call 090-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234arts.com or call 090-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234arts.com or call 090-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234arts.com or call 090-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234arts.com or call 0.
Okay, viewers, welcome back. It's Good Morning Nigeria brought to you by HINS TV. I remain Tocha Dele, and of course, you know these two wonderful gentlemen I have with me in the studio today. I have Mr. Victor by my left-hand side. Mr. Victor, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tochi. Good morning. Good morning, our viewers. Thanks for joining us.
And of course, I have Mr. Oku by my right-hand side. Mr. Oku, you're welcome to the show.
Yeah, Tochi, good morning.
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at two interesting topics today. And the first on the list is the Federal High Court proscribes IPOB and declares it a terrorist organization. Now, the Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday granted an order declaring the activities of the indigenous people of Biafra, the IPOB group, as a terrorist organization. The Attorney General of the Federation, the person of Abubakar Malami, also proscribed, or let's say banned, the existence of IPOB throughout the country, with particular reference to the southeast and south-south region. I want to start with you, Mr. Oku. What do you think about this declaration by the Federal High Court?
Yeah, it came to me as a surprise because if you follow the national discussion on this, if you follow the media, it's everywhere. I think that's the number one issue that members of all Nigerians are indeed debating for and against. I think it's rather unfortunate because they said it was an ex parte motion which was granted. And of course, the Attorney General of the Federation, talking about Abubakar Malami, of course, represented the federal government in that regards. And so the judge, Kafarati, said that he's proscribed the activities of IPOB, and that especially the activities in the southeast region, and that members of the group should desist from carrying out further activities. Like I said here, and like I have listened to eminent Nigerians express their views on this issue, I think this was one very sensitive issue that care needed to be taken and exercised to ensure that the law, because this is setting a precedent in law, and I know that in the future these particular judgments will be visited in terms of future laws. And I know that even lawyers have been debating about this issue. Some are saying that what is there in the activities of IPOB that qualifies them as terrorists? So it's very disturbing, and some people are even of the opinion that what if these members come up with another name? You understand? What if these members of the IPOB come up with another name and they're still going about the same activities? So it's surprising that the court would rule on a very sensitive issue such as this with this haste. Now we are aware that Nnamdi Kanu is due for court next month. Now, in what capacity will he be appearing in court? Because right now we know that Nnamdi Kanu is appearing in court as the leader of IPOB. Now that the government has officially come out to announce that they have proscribed IPOB, in what capacity, in what platform will he be standing trial by next month? So I think these are the areas that the federal government needs to come out and make more clarifications. And I know that the discussion is not going to end here. More Nigerians will continue to weigh in on this matter because as it is now, it has a national coloration.
All right, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Oku. Now, I want to ask you the same question, Mr. Victor. What do you think about this declaration by the Federal High Court that they declared IPOB a terrorist organization? What do you think about it?
I think the High Court, the man who delivered the judgment was cementing its favor because he is the acting, and his name is due to be taken to the lawmakers for approval to become the Attorney General of Nigeria. So he was only acting on the orders given to him by Buhari, because from the report, it is said, it has been asserted that Buhari has approved, he has signed on it before traveling, before leaving Nigeria. So he acted on the capacity of Buhari. But now it just makes a mockery of our legal system, because before now, I think so many people have lost faith in Nigerian legal system, and this whole thing, tribalism, comes to play because both judges that did this case, they were from the northern part of Nigeria. So it shows that tribalism is taken over by the day, and the Nigerian legal system, if they don't make the appointment based on merit, they just give it to whomever they feel can deliver their own judgment, what they want them to deliver. That's what they do. So. And now this is exactly what the northern governors went to the southeast to do. Just they went to inquire from the southeast governors. Now they prescribe the activities of IPOB. And just yesterday, the AGF and the judges, they had to cement that, to cover that up, to seal it and prescribe the activities of IPOB. So they only went to southeast to align with the southeastern governors to say this is okay, do this for us, then we'll seal it up so it doesn't come from you. That's just what played out yesterday. And everybody's going to keep reacting to this whole thing.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Victor. Okay, viewers, it's still Good Morning Nigeria, brought to you by Chinese TV. And we are looking at the first topic we have for you today, which is the Federal High Court proscribes IPOB and declares it a terrorist organization. So please give us a call. Our phone lines are open for you to call. If you're calling from Nigeria, the number to call will be displayed to you on your screen. Now, if you're calling from Nigeria, the number to call is 080-960-73146. And if you're calling from outside Nigeria, the number to call is +234-80-960-73146. 146. So please give us a call. We'd like to know what you think about what we are discussing today. And now, okay, let's go ahead. Now, a senior advocate of Nigeria kicked against the declaration by the Federal High Court and said it is a mockery of justice. What can you say about that? I mean, does this represent justice? The Federal High Court declaring IPOB as a terrorist organization. Now, remember the fact that the Fulani herdsmen have actually been causing menace. They've been terrorizing and killing people in some parts of the North and the Middle Belt region. And the federal government are yet to proscribe their activities or even declare them as terrorists. You know that they also have an international recognition as terrorist organization. But the Federal Republic of Nigeria is yet to describe them as terrorist organization, whereas IPOB, that say they are fighting for self-determination and only asking for referendum, has been declared terrorist organization. What can you say about that, Mr. Plain?
Yes, looking from the perspective of the senior advocate of Nigeria, that's exactly my point.
Okay.
Now, I think the federal government is yet to prescribe or to declare the Fulani herdsmen a terrorist group because there is the word Fulani there.
Okay.
That's my thoughts. Now, if you look at this issue holistically, you will come to the realization that the problem we're having in this country right now is that our institutions of government are not independent. You have a legislature in which the federal government wants to interfere. You have a judiciary that is not independent. That is why a couple of months back we saw the federal government invade the homes of Supreme Court judges.
Okay.
And they were trying to trump up allegations against these honorable judges. It took, I think, the bench and, of course, the Nigerian Bar Association to condemn the activities of the federal government. So the problem any country that is developing is having, and why they will not develop at the space they ought to, is because you have a central government that interferes with all institutions of government. I believe strongly that the judge in this case did not act independently. There were external interference. I mean, there was a kind of federal government interference in that judgment, because I would expect that, like I said, a case that is in court, ordinarily the court should have been allowed to hear the case which was scheduled for next month. But only yesterday they prescribed IPOB as a terrorist. And if you look at the follow-up to yesterday, the military had already come out to prescribe these guys. And then they would come later to say that it was a mere statement. So you look at the contradictions we are having in our legal circle, in our legal system. I think it's very appalling, it's repugnant, and it's a shame to us as a country.
Hold on, let's take this call before you continue. Sorry. Hello, good morning. Oh, we lost the call. Okay, go ahead, please.
So it's a shame, and it baffles me that sometimes when those people in the helms of affairs of this nation, when they want to take some uncivilized decisions, they are not aware or they're not conscious of the fact that the international community is watching. And it is based on things like these that they used to rate us as a civilized nation or as a people that are indeed practicing democracy. I know that sometimes some persons might want to take decisions because they're expecting that they might be promoted. And sometimes they damn the consequences and go ahead to do this sort of thing. Now, like I said, what precedents are we setting for the judiciary? Now, what are we making of our legal system? Because I think these fundamental questions must be asked. And I also call on the judiciary to look at this issue very squarely. They must examine this matter objectively. I know that some lawyers are very unhappy because it's not about IPOB here. It's about the sanctity of our laws, the fact that our laws can be respected, and the fact that you can go home to sleep knowing that you have confidence in the judiciary. So I think that's the sad part of this whole scenario.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Oko. And now the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, said that one of the countries funding IPOB is France, and proscribing the group would definitely block its funding source. What do you think about this, Mr. Victor? About what the Minister of Information said, that France is sponsoring IPOB. What can you make of that?
I think at least he has come out to say that actually pinpoint a country, because like yesterday he said they know the country.
They know the countries,
but
yes.
He's not at liberty to mention.
Okay.
So probably they've given him liberty. They've delegated power for him to to announce the country, and now he has come out to say that France. But I really doubt if France could be actually doing this. And even if they're doing that, why are they doing it?
Okay,
now,
hold on, Mr. Victor. Let's take this call before you continue. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good morning. Please, what's your name and where are you calling us from?
Good morning.
Good morning. What is your name and your location? Sorry, we didn't hear you.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead. What is your name and location, please?
Yeah, what I want to say about this federal government of the state. The federal government don't even know what they are doing. They are doing as if they are bold, but they don't know that truth is never. Whenever you are teaching somebody, whenever you are making an education of somebody, telling people you are trying to somebody, you are making everything possible to hide the truth. But as far as God is concerned, the truth must be come out. No thing on earth. Everything must be open. As far as God is working on earth, Biafra must be free. Biafra must be free. Anything they do, truth must be come out. No matter anything, they see IPOB, they hide the dead body, they post of acid, and the lab will go and label them terrorists. This is unfortunate, and the lady just saying, why Mohammed and Co, Buhari and the army pattern, whatever, when they go to the same anger on them, and they will feel this calamity and is what is due to Biafra, and the Biafra must be free. That is my option.
Okay.
And this is must be free. Biafra must be free. No
Okay.
matter anything they do to us.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution. We really appreciate that. Okay, so Mr. Victor, go ahead with what you were saying earlier.
now I think as someone said, this is Eli Mohammed. These are lawyers who don't really know what the law prescribes. Now,
Okay.
we have a constitution, and when you do things, the judges, even the judge yesterday, they never mentioned anything. They never quoted any section from our Nigerian constitution to back up their evil announcement. So it's just so appalling that Eli Mohammed could come out to say that France. Why are France sponsoring these people? Why don't you tackle the issue? The question has been, the thing has been, tackle the grievances of these people. If these things have been tackled, then there won't be these unnecessary talks coming from everywhere. Because if France, now you want to block France, the government has brought some policies that affected the economy of this country. So now, if you go ahead to block the funds coming from France, how do you expect the people who have families over there to send money down here? These are things they should look out for. Don't play the blame game now. Keep your blame game aside and tackle the issues at hand. Now, our president was at the UN Congress 2 days ago. He never mentioned anything about this. Rather, he only delegates power to people who can act on his capacity. This is a very wrong thing to be doing at this time. So, like Mohammed, I don't take that man seriously because he only says what from people's opinion. That is how he acts.
Okay.
He talks from people's opinion, not from his own opinion. He doesn't know what he's doing right now.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Victor. Okay, now, Mr. Oko, talking about Lai Mohammed saying France is sponsoring IPOB. What can you say about that?
I think we are having lots of comedy going on because if you check, anytime there is an issue in Nigeria, it's characteristic of the APC to tell you that it's been sponsored. Okay. When you have maybe students protesting, APC will come out to tell you that the students were actually sponsored. When some Nigerians took to the streets in Abuja, even Charlie Boy and of course Jim Ike, APC came out again to say they were sponsored by the opposition party. It's strange now that they're saying that members of IPOB are being sponsored by France. So does it then mean that the people cannot sponsor themselves to let their voice be heard? No, these are the contradictions that gets me pissed sometimes. I mean, when people are not satisfied with a system, when they're not satisfied with a process, it comes naturally that they will say, no, we are not comfortable with this. Now, it is strange and sad that every time the more. When you marginalize a people, and these people raise very important questions, I think it's the place of the government of the day to address these questions by preferring solutions rather than say that they're being sponsored. Now, has the minister come out to say that these agitations, that there are merits, that these people are actually agitating because they've been sidelined, because they've been taken away from the table of national discourse? He's not saying this. He's not even giving any reason. He's coming out to give a vague statement that they're being sponsored by France. And I think the government of France could take this up with him. Okay. I think when you're making international accusations, you should be conscious. These countries are not like African countries. These are countries that are more organized. These are countries that take statements seriously. And I just hope that Lai Mohammed is not setting the stage for crisis and a friction between Nigeria and France. Now, to take that a bit further, I'd like to say that Nigerians in Nigeria and those in diaspora know exactly what is happening in Nigeria. So they don't want a person in the position of Lai Mohammed, who is the Minister of Information, to tell them what's actually happening in their own country, because they have seen everything for themselves. They don't need him to tell them that the agitation is sponsored by France. And if he's talking about France, is he talking about the French government or he's talking about the French people? I think he has to be distinct and specific. He should call names. Let him tell us that the French government is behind this so that we'll know what he's talking about. Since the inception of this administration, I think Alhaji Lai Mohammed has been very, very notorious in terms of what he's been saying. He speaks from both sides of his mouth, and you can't take what he's saying with a pinch of salt, or you can take it with a pinch of salt. So I think this conversation is greater than the words of Lai Mohammed. Okay. It's time for Nigerians to weigh in on this debate, because we have seen that the decay and the rot is gradually creeping into the judiciary, which used to be called the last hope for the common man. But we can see that it's as if the common man does not have any hope in a nation such as this, as it is right now. So we're expecting, like I said, in what capacity would the federal government be trying Nnamdi Kanu by next month? Because all we have known of Nnamdi Kanu has been the IPOB, or the leader of the IPOB. So I think the judicial system in Nigeria, not just the Attorney General of the Federation, because the Attorney General is enjoying an appointment from the federal government. I'm talking about now the body of benches. I'm also talking about the senior advocates of Nigeria. And I'm looking at the lawyers, the independent lawyers in Nigeria. I think they have the burden, they have the onus to weigh into this decision. And I think at this point, members of the IPOB can also challenge this in court. You understand? Because it's not the Supreme Court's decision. It was at the High Court. So I think they can take this matter further and to the highest level so that they can get justice.
Now, sorry, Mr. Oko, I think I have to come in here. Now, who is going to file this case at the Supreme Court? That is another thing we have to think of. Who is going to, because right now, Nnamdi Kanu, who has a case in court, I don't think he will have that time now to go fight this. So there are other people, if only the lawmakers or the other benchers could come out to defend their own sanctity, to defend the legal system, they can take this up.
I think, like I said, the fight now, it's not just about the lawyers or the body of benchers or the senior advocates of Nigeria. It's not their fight alone. I believe that the IPOB have legal representation. The other time I saw a lawyer representing IPOB. And I know that all of the court cases Nnamdi Kanu has been having, there have been lawyers speaking on his behalf. Yeah, yes. These lawyers can rise up. And it's not just one lawyer we're talking about. I think he has a team of lawyers, competent lawyers, that knows the position of law on certain sensitive issues. Yes. So I think this is the time for them to file a lawsuit to challenge this decision.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Prince. Now let's talk about the Southeast governors and the IPOB group. Now recall that the Southeast governors were the first to actually proscribe the activities of this group. And now Lai Mohammed has come out to say that the IPOB group, that he came out to defend the proscription of this IPOB group, saying that since this IPOB group is majorly made up of Southeasterners, and for the Southeast governors to actually come out or be the first to actually proscribe the activities, then who else? Who are the IPOB fighting for? Now, I want you guys to look into this statement. Now, what do you think about this? Do you think the activities of Southeast governors actually crippled IPOB as a group, given to the fact that they were the first to actually reject or proscribe the activities? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I want to say that I don't know where these Southeastern governors are getting their inspiration from.
Okay.
Now, because if you look at their body language and you look at the manner at which they've been carrying themselves since the inception of this agitation, you will certainly get disturbed. Now, let's look at how this agitation started. Right from the beginning, they were never interested.
Yeah.
Like in this program, we've been saying that we had expected that the governors would come together and maybe have a meeting with some eminent members from the Southeast, but we didn't see this happen. It was when the agitation got to a level of I would say, a crisis proportion.
Okay.
That was when they convened an emergency meeting. Now, as chief executive officers of individual states in the Southeast, why did the governors stay that long before convening a very important meeting such as that? Now, if you check the way they've been going about it, you would sense some level of conspiracy. And it appears as though some governors in the Southeast are only interested in how much they can make out of government. Now, I take an example of the former governor of Abia State, talking about Orji Uzor Kalu, who happens to be one of the richest men in Africa. This is a man who left his state in a squalid state. He messed up that state. Now, you go to the state, most of the roads there are not motorable. You find that the people there are struggling to survive. And here's a man who is quoted as one of the richest men in Africa. So you see the mindset of these so-called leaders. They are more interested in how they will be renowned as richest men in the world, and they're not servant leaders. They don't care whether the people, millions of people from their states, die in poverty. They're only interested in themselves and their families and, of course, a few friends. So the leaders or the state governors in the southeastern region have given the people reasons to believe that they can no longer trust them. Now, if these leaders had always protected the interest of the led, in this case their constituents, I think the followership that Nnamdi Kanu is enjoying today is because the governors have neglected their people. And so the people believe that they can pitch their tent with the IPOB leader. Most of them believe that they don't even have a governor. Because a governor who swears an oath to protect and to provide for the welfare of the people, he's saying doing the reverse. So these are the things that have, discredited some of these southeastern governors. We see the likes of Richard Okorocha, the way he's piloting the affairs in Imo State. The people are grossly disappointed in him. You see the likes of Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi of Enugu State. We saw when the Fulani herdsmen attacked people from Enugu State. We didn't see that force which he should have used to debunk and, tell them that this is wrong. So these are the things that the people, when they reflect on, they feel disappointed in those people they call their governors. So I think these are all the issues that sometimes gets the people angry and make them feel that they don't have a sense of belonging in their state or in their country.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Oku. Okay, viewers, will be going on a very short break now. When we come back, we'll continue at what we are looking at today. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
90-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner, do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product?
Okay, viewers, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, brought to you by Chinese TV, and we have been looking at the first topic we have today, which is the Federal High Court proscribes IPOB and declares it a terrorist organization. So please do keep your calls coming in. We want to know what you think about what we are looking at today. The numbers to call will be displayed to you on your screen. If you're calling from Nigeria or outside Nigeria, now I have to call the numbers for you. If you're calling from Nigeria, the number to call is 080-960-73146. If you're calling from outside Nigeria, the number to call is +234-80-960-73146. So please do give us a call. We'd like to know what you think about what we are looking at today. Okay, now back to what we are discussing. Now, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, also said that the country is currently in the keg of gunpowder as a result of the IPOB activities. And if not for the quick action of the Southeast governors and also the Northern governors who ensured there was no reprisal attack from their region after the alleged IPOB clash with Northerners in the country would have been plunged into a serious state of crisis. I want to ask you, Mr. Oko, let me start with you. What do you think about this? What the Minister of Information said that if not for the quick response of the Southeast governors and the Northern governors that hindered the reprisal attack from Northerners, that the country would have been into a state of crisis right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, first I agree with the Minister of Information that the country was at the verge of a keg of gunpowder.
Okay.
Yes, that's very true.
Okay.
And that is because of the poor handling of the situation by the federal government, by his federal government, because he's a member of that government. I think, like most Nigerians have observed, that the federal government have not done a clinical job in addressing the question of IPOB. Now, if you look at the train of developments, these guys have been asking for referendum, they've been asking for national dialogue, but the federal government never saw the wisdom in that. Rather, they felt that they could use a superior military force by unleashing the army to the east.
Okay.
Now, there is no country of the world that you don't find issues of uprising and agitations. It's about how the government of that country, or any other country for that matter, goes about preferring solutions to these issues.
Okay.
I feel that Nigerians will not give credit to these governments as it is currently constituted. If you look at the approach by which they went ahead with addressing this problem. There was never a time where we saw the federal government initiate dialogue like we would have expected in the previous government of Goodluck Jonathan and of course Yaradua, when the militants question was up there.
Okay, let's take this call before you continue. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. You're on to HIN News TV. Please tell us your name and location.
From Senegal.
Sorry, we didn't hear you.
Senegal.
Caller from Senegal. Okay, please go ahead with your contribution, please.
Okay. In the topic of today, federal government declaring IPOB as a terrorist. Federal government has been
Federal
very
High
big
Court.
mistake.
Okay.
They automatically telling the IPOB members to carry guns. Because when you declare me a terrorist, when I have not carried weapons, that means you have authorized me to take up arms against the government. That is what they don't know what they are doing. That's how to prepare for this minute.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. You heard what that caller said, that for the Federal High Court to declare the IPOB terrorist group when they have not taken up arms, that means they are encouraging them to take up arms. What do you think about that, Mr. Oko? Before you go back to what you're saying, I want you to react to what the caller said. But before then, let's take another call. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Hello, good morning. You're welcome to the show. Please tell us your name and location.
Yeah, my name is Emeka calling from Japan.
Emeka calling from where, please?
I'm calling from Japan.
Okay, Mr. Emeka calling us from Japan. You're welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, please go
I
ahead.
want to thank the guy on your right hand side, Mr. Oku.
Okay.
I'm surprised I can see some young Nigerians who are so blunt in
Okay.
telling the government what is the right thing to do.
Okay.
Fortunately, the situation at hand, my anger is like it's going to most Nigerians. I need to look at the situation at hand right now in Nigeria. I believe most Nigerians are not happy with the Nigerian government.
Okay.
But then, as a Nigerian, what are we doing? Are we expecting these leaders who are exploiting us, cheating us, abusing us to change? I think Nigerians to change. These are come out and speak what you want from the government. You look around the world, we see how people agitate citizens. But Nigerians said to large, like other states, suffering and smiling. Why? When do we think it's going to end? Because today they are killing the IPOB, who are able to be bold enough to come out to seek their rights. But today all Nigerians are just sitting there looking at this situation. Some of them are even happy. So are they happy with the situation they find themselves? See our graduates, they come out, few of them, they don't have work, a lot of them don't have work. Most of them travel abroad. Why not Nigerians saying they should come out? This is the time for them to come out and seek their justice, their future. Must we continue to be slaves in our country? We blame the leaders, we blame the government, we blame this. We have to start blaming ourselves. What's our mentality? We say we go to school, we are graduates. What kind of graduates are we? When we cannot come out to fight for our collective rights, when do we think these things will change? We need to change now, Nigerians. We need to come out to see what we need to start from this government. By changing all these leaders, by coming out and saying that they must go down for us, they must relieve of their duties.
Okay.
We are being ashamed all over the world, embarrassed all over the world. Look at our president. He can't even speak good English. So we have to...
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Emeka. We appreciate your contribution. Okay, we want to give other callers a chance to air their views. So thank you so much. Thank you very much for your contribution. We really do appreciate it. Okay, so back to you, Mr. Victor. Mr. Oku, let's round up with the first topic. You were saying something. Actually, what you think about what the previous caller had said?
Yeah, I do not know whether it's the intention of the federal government to encourage these guys to take up arms, because they didn't take up arms, but the federal government labeled them terrorists.
Yeah.
Now, if people who are not wielding dangerous weapons are termed terrorists, what about those who were about with dangerous weapons? So the question is open-ended. It's not in my position to say whether the federal government really wants them to pick up arms now that they have declared them a terrorist group.
Okay.
Now, talking about what we're discussing before the call came in, like I said, I think this is a very big blow to the nation state Nigeria, and it's not in any way respecting our history, and it's setting a very bad precedent, because I know that one thing in law is that from time to time, controversial cases like these are usually referenced as a reference point, and some cases will have to take inspiration from this one. So, like you said, or like you asked, I wish the government can sometimes look beyond their tenure. Because it seems from the decisions and the discretion of government, it appears as though they don't look beyond the 4 years for which they were elected to lead. So that sometimes they take very terrible decisions that will have a detrimental effect in the long term. So there are countries of the world who are prosperous today because they took decisions that can last them for more than 50 years. They take decisions that can outlive them, and not decisions that will favor them today because they're in positions of authority. Now, one thing that is very instructive is that you might be at the hands of affairs today. Tomorrow you'll be at the receiving end, because you won't have all the immunity. You won't have the protection of government. And I think it's high time Nigerian leaders should begin to consider these factors, because it's very, very important.
Right. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Oku. Now, I want to ask you this question, Mr. Victor, before we move on to the second topic. Okay, now, given to the fact that the IPOB has been declared a terrorist organization by the federal government and has also been ascertained by the Federal High Court as a terrorist organization. Now, what do you think will be the fate of the IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu? And also, recalling the fact that the IPOB had earlier stated that there should be a boycott of the Anambra elections coming on November 18th. What do you think will be the fate of the Anambra elections, the boycott of the Anambra elections, and also the fate of the IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu after he has been described, he and his IPOB group has been described as terrorists? What do you think will happen to them?
Well, I think this whole thing right now got to this point after Nnamdi Kanu said he was going to ask his followers to stay back at home during the election.
Okay.
Meaning there won't be any election. That was when the people had to react. And now I think nobody knows his whereabouts right now. So the whole thing right now depends on the federal government and the state governors. And them treating the IPOB members like this, it shows they really don't want the election to hold. Because with the whole thing now, nobody's going to come out to vote on that day. Okay. It's not about keeping Nnamdi Kanu away. It's about buying the minds of the people. Okay. That is what the government should have done. And with this act now, I don't think the indigenous are going to give into the governors. Okay. They won't come out to vote on that election. It's not about, IPOB now is not about Nnamdi Kanu anymore. Okay. It's about the whole people. It's about the region of the southeastern region. So them going about this way, prescribing the activities of IPOB and supporting the federal government to actually categorize them as terrorist group, it means there won't be election. Because, like I said before, it's not all about Nnamdi Kanu now. It's about the people. The masses now, they have the final say. Okay. Because they've already bought, Nnamdi Kanu is the leader, like they say. Okay. And government, they've lost faith in the government, they've lost faith in the leaders of southeastern region. So I don't think there's going to be election on that day, or people are still going to boycott the election. That's just the whole thing.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Victor. And that will be all for the first topic today. We're moving over to this second topic we have today. But before that, we'll be going on a very short break. So please stay with us. Thank you.
Over 3,000 Nigerians. Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234ads.com or call 090-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, or a small business owner? Do you know that with as low as 1,000 naira, you could advertise your product to over 3,000 Nigerians? Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234ads.com or call 090-9162-1850. Are you a business tycoon, a young entrepreneur, or...
Okay, viewers, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, brought to you by Chinese TV. And we'll be moving on to the second topic we have for you today, which says that the Southeast politicians are only interested in pocketing national resources rather than develop their region, says Northern governors. Now, while on the peace mission to the Southeast and South-South regions, the Northern governors stated that the current challenges in the Southeast are not as a result of the marginalization as generally believed by people of the region. They argued that the Igbos had occupied exalted positions during the previous administration, but rather used the opportunity to amass wealth for themselves. Now, the forum said, I state in quotes, politicians from the zone are only interested in pocketing the resources that would have been used in developing their region at the detriment of the people. Now, I want to ask a question to my guest, but first of all, I want to introduce another guest I have with me on the show. I have, by my left-hand side, I have Mr. Rex Okoronkwo. He just joined us after the break, and he'll be looking at the second topic with us. Mr. Rex, you're welcome to the show.
All right, thank you very much, for bringing me to the show.
Okay,
Good morning, viewers.
Okay, all right. Like I stated before, the Northern governor said Southeast politicians are only interested in pocketing national resources rather than develop their region. What do you think about that, Mr. Rex?
All right, thank you very much. I must say that this is just a slap to the so-called politicians that we have in eastern part of the country, in Southeast.
Okay.
Because this was said in front of one of the politicians. I'm talking about Owele Rochas. Is he not a politician again? And he never said anything about that. But what, looking at northern governors coming to the eastern part of Nigeria to, for peace mission, as they said,
yeah.
I don't know why. Is there? Let me just look it from this angle. The eastern part of Nigeria, they are experiencing peace in the region. There is no doubt. What they have there is youth and some parts of the Igbos saying that they don't want to be part of Nigeria again. And which we know they have been going about their agitation in a very peaceful manner.
Okay.
There's never been a day we see or, get to hear that these people are being agitating with arms.
Okay.
So you coming to the eastern part of Nigeria to say you are coming for a peace mission is like trying to bring peace to where there is a peace, existing. And when you bring peace to where there is peace, you know what it will result to? It will result to pieces. And I tell you, I'm saying it categorically clear that the eastern part of the eastern governors and politicians, be it House of Rep, whatever you are, sorry to say this, you people are the cause of the problem that we are having in the eastern part of Nigeria. Why should I say this? These people have been representing us for a very long time. Okay. And there has never, if you go to let's just take for instance the House of Rep. These people have been sent to the House to represent their constituency. Okay. But what are they doing in order to make sure that their constituency is being developed? I don't know if you understand where I'm going.
Yeah.
So these are the things that this Biafra agitation saw that made them believe that they have been marginalized. Okay. But looking at it from the, should I say, from the federal government perspective, I think the federal government on their own side letting northern governors to come to the east to come and start negotiating for peace. Well, it's a slap to all Igbo politicians, and he's also sorry to say this. I will use this word. It's a disgrace to all Igbo politicians because it's obvious that they cannot maintain peace in their own land, and these people that are coming to the east to give them peace, are they experiencing peace in their own territory? Let's take for instance Borno State, the governor Shetima coming to. We know that Boko Haram is the den of Boko Haram. And you have not solved the problem which has been there for more than how many years. You are coming to a place where they are experiencing peace, or in the name of you are coming to give them peace. And the so-called politicians that they have in the eastern part of Nigeria open their arms, welcome them, and laugh with them. They are coming to give them peace. You give what you have, what is in you. You don't give what you don't have. Because in the northern part of Nigeria, we all know that there have been so many issues going on, ranging from insecurity and all the rest of them. Okay. So why can't you solve your problem before you now bring the idea of how you solve your problem to give to another person to solve his or her problem? You've not solved the problem in the north, and you are coming to east where there is peace to solve the problem in the peace. So I think the politicians are just playing. The southeast politicians are just playing on the. They are just playing on the intelligence of the Igbos.
Okay, let me remind you, Mr. Rex, that the visit of the northern governors to the southeast and south-south region was necessitated by after the clash, the IPOB clash, the alleged IPOB clash with Northerners, as a result of the Operator Python dance that took place in Abia State, I would say. So because of this clash, the northern governors were sent by the president to the southeast and south-south region to actually broker peace with the southeast regions in order to prevent let's say future hostility between the Northerners and the Southeasterners. So what can you say about that?
Thank you very much. You made mention of clash between the military and the IPOB.
Okay.
And how did the clash came about? We all saw how everything happened.
Started,
and how it started.
Okay.
Because looking at, let's just digress a little bit.
Okay.
It all started from 12th of September, or should I say 11th of September, being Sunday, when the military said they are coming to the southeast to, exercise their Ekweke, which is called Python dance.
Python dance, yes.
And we all know they said the exercise will start on 15th. So what are you now doing with armor tanker all over the eastern part of Nigeria, threatening people? Let me tell you something. You as a presenter here, you understand that when you see armor tank in your street,
okay,
you ought to know that this is not a military environment. You must ask questions. You must react.
Okay. Okay.
You must ask questions to know what this armor tank is doing in this place. So the presence of armor tank in that community is the problem that has before all the Igbos in the country. The people that we are saying the armor tanks will not come in and they will not go out, they are doing that because they believe that armor tank is coming to assassinate their leader. I don't know if you understand where I'm going.
Okay.
So the federal government should be telling the Nigerians, should be telling Nigerians what the armor tank is doing when they said the time for the Python dance supposed to be on 15th. And what is the armor tank doing on 12th of September in Nnamdi Kanu's home? Which you know that Nnamdi Kanu already have a case in the court.
Okay.
If only you want to arrest Nnamdi Kanu for one reason best known to you, why don't you wait till he appears in the court on 27th of maybe next month, I think so. 17th. Then 17th of next month. Then you now, if you want to arrest him, that is the best way to arrest him. Why are you not exposing other Nigerians, being Igbos, to untimely death? You and I know that there are so many people that lost their life. There are so many people that are in the hospital. There are so many people that have bullets in their chest and they can't remove it. They are looking for money to travel out of the country to go and do the surgery outside the country. So I say that the whole problem that we are experiencing in the Southeast is being necessitated by, let me just say, from the government, federal government, who gave order to the military to, show that force which they were showing in the Southeast.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Rex. Okay, now I would like to ask you the same question, Mr. Oku. Now, is there any truth to what the Northern governors said as regards to their position that Southeast politicians, or most Southeast politicians, they are only interested in pocketing the national resources rather than developing their region? What do you think about that? Is there any truth to what they said?
My candid view on that is that the Northern governors are only playing to the gallery. Okay. Yes, I say this because they're not better off in their own states.
All right.
It's the same thing. Now, if you travel to some of the northern states, you find our Marjorie lining the roads, begging for arms, just working themselves to survive. They live in abject poverty in those countries where you have these governors say the sort of things that they're saying. So why are they saying this? Now, you can only say this if you're piloting the affairs of your state in a better way. The northern governors are not faring better, so they're in no position to criticize or condemn any governor in this country. But that's not to dismiss the fact that the eastern governors are not doing well too.
Okay.
In fact, most Nigerian governors, I would say 95% of Nigerian governors, apart from the Lagos State governor that I know, are operating below expectations. You understand?
Okay.
They get a huge amount of money as monthly allocation. They get internally generated revenue. What do they do with this money? Not just the governors, including the senators, including the House of Rep members. It was reported recently that the Nigerian Senate is the most expensive Senate in the whole world. So can you beat that? So I think that, like I said, the northern governors are playing to the gallery. They don't have anything to say. And there is no point they coming out to tell us that the eastern governors are taking all the monies meant for their constituents. All Nigerians know that. Nigerians know that almost all the governors siphon money a lot from the state coffers, including the northern governors. The northern governors are themselves guilty as the eastern governors. So it's not just restricted only to the eastern part of the country. It's the Nigerian dilemma, where you have governors who, as soon as they win elections, they forget about the very people who voted them into office. So it has nothing to do with whether it's about the north, it's about the east or the south. It's a trait in Nigeria. And I think the northern governors should first and foremost advise themselves first before going out of their states to advise others, because they don't have the moral right to advise anybody. You can see them on the screen.
Okay.
What have these governors done in their states, in their individual states, to alleviate poverty or to put a smile in the faces of people from their states? So I think they're trying to make a political point which is not necessary at this point in time. The problem we're having in Nigeria is that the governors, there is no mechanism whereby state governors can be held accountable You see one governor stay in office, he leaves the office, another one comes in, and then the pillage continues. There is no state mechanism that can checkmate the excesses of these governors. And these governors can do all the crime that they can do and get away with it. There is no institutionalized mechanism, like I said, that can hold these governors accountable, not just in the East, but everywhere else, including the North.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Oko. Okay, now going further, they also made mention of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB group, saying that when he was arrested, senators from the Southeast fought tooth and nail to bill him for what they could gain at the detriment of national unity and peaceful coexistence. That's, I would say, selfish reasons. So what do you think they meant by this, saying that the Southeast senators actually fought tooth and nail to bill Nnamdi Kanu when he was arrested by the Nigerian government for selfish reasons? Can you make any meaning out of that statement?
I think Nigerian politicians are now in the habit of maybe employing the tool of blackmail to project their interests.
Okay.
All of these stories that is coming out now, it's not important at all. Whatever transpired during the bail conditions and when he was granted the initial bail, I think it's insignificant at this point in time. And the act of pointing, accusing fingers, trying to apportion blame, it's not taking the nation forward. It's not helping anyone. So that is the case. They should forget about what transpired at that time and see how they can develop the individual states.
Okay.
That's my take on that.
Okay, viewers are gradually coming to the end of the show. But before then, I would like to ask you a question, Mr. Rex. Now, the northern governors commended their counterparts from the Southeast region for their stand on the path of peace and national unity. Now, Mr. Rex, do you on your part think that the Southeast governors were right on banning the IPOB activities, given to the fact that they were mostly fighting for the rights of the Southeast region, as they said? Do you think the Southeast governors were right in banning the activities? Because from what I can recall, they were actually the first to proscribe the IPOB group. So what do you think about that? Were they right in doing that?
One thing you should understand is, what are the activities of these IPOB members?
Okay.
These are youth from their states that are going on to agitate for what they want.
Okay.
And what do they want? They want self-determination.
Okay.
They just want to be free. And what made them to start agitating for this? That is because of the government have failed them. The unemployment is on the high rate. You know what I'm saying? There is no job for graduates. In Imo State, if you look at all the KK drivers or riders in Imo State, 40 or 50% of them are graduates. And why? Because there is no work. So what are you trying to tell me? These are things that should be, put in place in order to solve all these impending issues. So for the governors to come out and start saying that IPOB are this and that, they are saying that because they are not benefiting from it. Maybe they wanted to hijack the whole thing. But just because the fact that maybe Nnamdi Kanu said no to their rules or whatever their suggestion they might come up with, and that is why they are now kicking against this man. Because this man alone is the only man that in Igbo land that can give order to the youth, and the youth will obey. Let's look at what happened at Sit at Home. What Nnamdi Kanu made just only comments. We saw how the economy of the 5 eastern states of the country were paralyzed because of the fact that a man said sit at home. So these are their fears, and that is why they are fighting with all their last strength and blood to ensure that Nnamdi Kanu is being hunted down. That is the only thing I can say for now.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, viewers, we've come to the end of the show. All right, Mr. Oko, do you have any summary to say, anything to say about both topics we discussed today? Anything you want to give out a summary?
Yeah, we've spoken exhaustively about these two topics, and I think there isn't much to say, rather than to advise these northern governors who are pushing blame to go back to their states and stop the imagery that we have all over the place. And we have people begging for arms, and we have the poverty rates getting very high. And of course, like we have observed here, the southeastern governors too are not doing well. That's why they've lost the respect of their own people. Like I said, there is no Nigerian that needs them to tell them what's happening in the country. Even children now come to the realization of the truth in Nigeria. We know that politicians have now become very selfish, self-centered, and they only care about how much they can make as soon as they win elections. So this is very instructive, and Nigerians generally should know when people approach them for votes, because some of these guys can just be wolf in sheep's clothing.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Oko. Now that brings us to the end of the show today. So we thank you so much, viewers, for staying with us, and we also thank you for contributing to the show. We thank you for giving us a call. And please, if you have not liked our page, you can like our page, our Facebook page at Happiness in Nigeria. And please do not forget to share this post. You can share this video on your timeline so that others can be a part of what we discussed today. So we'll be seeing you again tomorrow, same time and same station on English TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.
Advertise your products to over 3,000 Nigerians. Oh yes, it is no magic. All you need to do, visit us today at www.234ads.com or call